Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of the Blue Jay Center podcast presented by the Sick Podcast Network. Coming up, Vladdy is back. Jeff Hoffman's replacement, the Jays face a pitching gauntlet, and more. Don't go anywhere.
Turn up your volume. Because you're about to listen to the Sick Podcast. Blue Jays Center.
Bautista drives it deep left field. Gone!
The sickest Toronto Blue Jays podcast. It's gonna be sick.
Cole Whiston, Rob Pentalmon with you today, and one of the most prominent discussions this season has been Vladimir Guerrero Jr., the $500 million man not playing like he's worth $500 million. Surprise, surprise. But since the All-Star break, and more specifically since the start of August, that is no longer true. In 12 games in August, Vladdy has batted 5 home runs, 10 RBI, and slashed .340 with a .740 slug and 1100 OPS. Rob, my question to you is, are you confident that the $500 million Vladdy is back?
I think the $500 million Vladdy's back. I think it's just that simple. First of all, thank you, Cole, for being on this podcast. I know it's been we tried to get one going for a while now, but obviously we've been very busy. We're getting going. I want to apologize to the audience. Battling a bit of a cold, so I apologize if I sound a little rough. But yeah, I'm excited to talk about the Blue Jays baseball and Vladdy, who, for the first time since this contract, has sort of put it together and looked like the guy that we've wanted to look like all year long. And the thing about Vlad is that what's always been weird is that the body of work has always been there for Vlad. You know, you always look at the underlying metrics. They're always incredible. You look at even the clutch numbers, all the season long, the narrative has been Vladdy's not clutch, from us included. But yet when you look at the numbers, they're like, actually, he's been pretty clutch, but it never felt that way. And now all of a sudden, the eye test is matching the body of work. The moments are matching the body of work. And the Blue Jays sit here. Quick standings update, 71-51 after beating the Cubs 2 out of 3. They sit 5 games up on the AL East lead. They're leading the American League, the Tigers, for the top spot in the American League by half a game. And a big reason why is because the week that Vladimir Guerrero Jr. has had. Obviously, in LA this past weekend, the game-tying home run in the 8th inning in the crazy game that the Jays would end up winning. And obviously the big home run off Matt Boyd, who looked unstoppable prior to that home run. Man, it's so nice to see. So nice to see Vladdy living up to the superstar hype, because here's the thing. The reason why he got $500 million is not because of the player that he's been throughout his career, but it's more so the ceiling that he can reach. There are a few guys who can reach the heights that a locked-in Vladimir Guerrero Jr. is. We saw that last year. We saw that in 2021. And slowly but surely, Prof, every month, his OPS has gone up slightly at this incline rate. It doesn't surprise me if by the end of the year, we're looking at Vlad's season as a whole, the whole body of work, and you're looking at a 5 to 6 win player, an OPS well over 900, close to 30 home runs. And all of a sudden you're like, yeah, there was a lot of discourse back and forth, but maybe that contract doesn't look so bad after all if that's going to be the standard. And if he does that back-to-back years, especially in a year now, unlike last year where there's expectations and the games that matter, man, we got something here. We got something for sure, and I'm very excited about it.
I'll pose that question to the fans, and I'll pose it to you as well, Rob. Vladdy currently sits at 20 home runs with about a month and a half of baseball left. Does he get to 30? But before I have you answer, Rob, obviously the fans can comment below and answer that right now. I also want to mention where the clutch came in for this podcast, and maybe even for Blue Jays media members on Twitter. Here's what it was. It wasn't that Vladdy didn't hit the ball for base hits when there was runners in scoring position. That wasn't the case. It wasn't that Vladdy wasn't necessarily driving in guys with runners in scoring position. Also not the case. What was the case is they were singles. He did not have a high slugging percentage with runners in scoring position. He did not have a lot of home runs with runners in scoring position. And unfortunately, despite the fact that baseball has a metric for literally everything, and I'm sure if you look hard enough, you could come up with one for what I'm about to say, but it doesn't have a metric for producing actual damage with runners in scoring position. You know what I mean? Like, I don't care if he's knocking in the guy from third, but he grounds out to the first baseman to do so. I care about, does he hit gappers when there's guys on base? That's what I want to know. And there isn't really a metric for that except for slugging percentage would be the best representation of that, I think. And Vladdy, like I said, did not have a high slugging percentage. So that's where this clutch thing has come into play for Vladdy. But like I said, since the All-Star break, that is not the case. 30 home runs, Rob. Does he get to it?
Right now he's got 8 in the last 4 weeks. I think the All-Star break started back 4 weeks ago. I think that we're at the 4-week mark right now as of today, which is August the 15th. So at this pace, I mean, obviously you'd say yes, because you said 8 in a month, so we got a month and a half left, so you should get double digits. That's all he needs to get to 30. I think it'll be close. I would say yeah. I think he gets there. He got there last year. I think last year
Yep.
he sort of has a similar pace, and then he just went on a tear. And right now he's on a tear right now, and we know these Vlad tears. The thing about the Vlad tears are this is not David Schneider from 2 years ago, where it's just like, yeah, you have a guy come up and he finds, a blind squirrel finds a nut, and not to crap on David Schneider, who's having a solid season, but with Vlad, you feel like this is sustainable because all the data suggests it is. All the data suggests that what we've seen this last month from Vlad is closer to the player that we should be getting every day rather than the guy that we've seen for the majority of his career. You know what I mean? Like this is obviously 1150 OPS. Like, yeah, that's not going to happen. Like no one does that unless you're Aaron Judge, maybe Shohei Ohtani. But like in terms of a guy close to that, like an OPS well over 900, like, yeah, I don't see why you shouldn't expect that moving forward. And also I want to make a comment on the clutch thing. I think that baseball, like you said, it's a big numbers game. Everything's quantifiable, but ultimately, I do think that there is sort of a holistic assessment that needs to be applied at times. And I remember specifically the series in Sacramento, the series right before the All-Star break, where they lost that series to Sacramento. And I remember Vlad had a rough series personally, just off the top of my head. I don't know what his actual numbers were.
Yep.
And I remember in the 2 games that the Sacramento or the Athletics, whatever, won, that Brent Rooker looked awesome in those 2 games. He had, I think, 2 home runs in each game. It was the game-defining home runs. And I just thinking to myself, like, why can't Vlad do that, man? Like, why can't Vlad just take over a series and win it by himself as the best player? Like, why is Brent Rooker, who's a good player, but nowhere near getting $500 million contract, nowhere near as highly touted as Vlad is? Like, when is Vlad actually going to look like that and just snatch you a game, a series? And now we're seeing it. We're seeing it firsthand. That's this past series against Chicago. That's a big series win, man. I know that even if the Jays would have lost yesterday, they would have still been in the fine spot, still multiple games up on the AL East. Still, their playoff odds would still be well over 90%. Everything would have been fine. But winning that game, and now this is your first series win since the first non-Rocky series win in multiple weeks, also coupled with the fact that both the Red Sox and the Yankees lost recently the other day. You have a 5-game lead. It feels pretty big. It feels pretty big, especially considering that now you have a series against the Rangers. You win this series, and all of a sudden during this tough part of the schedule where you face the LA, Chicago, and now the Rangers, you're going to be over 500 if you kind of come away with a series win here. So I thought that was massive. I thought that was well-timed home run by Vladdy, and you just love to see it from that guy because this is what players are supposed to do. You remember Juan Soto's home run last year again in Cleveland to send the Yankees to the World Series. You pay guys for these big moments. I know that the raw numbers and the stats and all that's what takes precedence when we look back at it 5 years down the road and evaluate the season. But these individual moments, they matter to me. And that was a huge moment by Vlad yesterday. And a week that's been filled with huge moments by Vlad. Love to see it.
Yeah, exactly. And sticking with your holistic approach, Vladimir Guerrero Jr. having moments like this moves this team from being a team that you think, gets bounced in the ALCS to a team that has a shot at winning the World Series, and I mean that genuinely. So that's the difference. If you have a guy like Vladimir Guerrero Jr. who can take over a series and win you multiple games in the playoffs, that's the difference that you have in the postseason. And Rob perfectly mentioned there with guys like Juan Soto. Another guy that is going to be an integral part to you attempting to even come close to winning a World Series or appearing in a World Series is your closer, and ours is Jeff Hoffman, at least for now. This has been a conversation, I would say, under the radar all year long, whether or not Jeff Hoffman can be trusted to be your closer. And I think over the last, month, it is absolutely time, with a month and a half left of baseball to go, to have this conversation. Can Jeff Hoffman be trusted to be an October closer? Because you look at the raw numbers and they don't jump off the board. Tons of runs given up, tons of home runs given up, more blown saves than Jordan Romano has ever had as a Toronto Blue Jay, and that guy got a lot of slack from me and from other Jays fans for being a potential playoff closer, got a lot of slack. Probably a large part to the reason why he didn't get re-signed in Toronto, not just because of his, elbow injuries or whatever it was. That probably played a factor as well. And now we have to attempt to rely on a guy who is objectively worse. If you missed our trade deadline shows, I brought up when we acquired Seranthony Dominguez the fact that across the board, he's had more closing experience, and his baseball savant numbers are significantly better than Jeff Hoffman's in every single notable category except for walks. And what cost Jeff Hoffman an actual good performance in LA? Oh, just 5 walks. 5 walks over 1 inning, I think it was, or 1 1/3, or not even. He didn't even get those outs. I think he ended up being
2/3. I believe it was
2/3. Yeah,
2/3. Yeah.
2/3. He was supposed to be trusted to get 4 outs, and he couldn't. He only got 2 of them.
One of the outs was a sack bunt too, just so you know.
Yeah, exactly. One of the outs was a sack bunt. So I think it's finally time to have this conversation. And I said it in the group chat last week, and I'm going to say it here. Seranthony Dominguez and Louis Varland deserve a shot at winning the closer spot. You can argue with me on whether or not you think a month and a half of save opportunities is going to be enough time to determine whether or not you have another closer come October, and I'll hear you out. And I will obviously hear you out if you think Jeff Hoffman is still going to be the guy come October. All I'm saying is I currently don't trust him to be an October closer.
Yeah, I think that's fair. And I've had a very odd evaluation of Jeff Hoffman's season because I do feel like I've been in a battle of two extremes. I feel like coming in, I've been critical of Jeff Hoffman. I think I've been on the critical end for all the reasons you just mentioned there. And for the listeners won't know this, but in our group chat, our contributor Tyler, he's been very defensive of Jeff Hoffman's season. He's pointing to the fact that he's had very unfavorable deployments in terms of there are outings where he pitches 4 times in 5 days. There are outings where he pitches multiple innings. We saw that earlier in the year. We had 2-inning outings. There are outings where he doesn't pitch a week between. And I don't go all the way there with Tyler in terms of that just completely excuses giving up 10 home runs in 40-something innings. I do think that there is a validity to that I do think we should be fair to Jeff Hoffman.
Above 0, yeah.
Yes, because I do agree. Here's the thing. As critical as I've been about Jeff Hoffman, I agree that the way he's pitched, the eye test, is not representative of the numbers he actually has. I don't think he's a guy with an ERA well over 4 or a guy we were watching that has home runs per 9 through the roof or gets barreled as much as he has. I think that actually when you look at the underlying metrics, he still profiles as a legitimate late inning leverage reliever for you. And the walks in LA on Sunday, that was awful to watch, very frustrating. Don't get me wrong, it makes you tear your hair out, but that's not really been Jeff Hoffman's bugaboo all season. That was the only outing all season, I believe, where he had multiple walks. The problem with Jeff Hoffman has never been the command. It's been that he just gets pieced from time to time, and he gets hit really hard. And unfortunately, because you're a leverage reliever, when you get pieced, you tend to remember those a lot more than, let's say, a couple walks every now and then. So I think, to be fair to Jeff, I think he's had a better season than the numbers would suggest. Yes. That being said, I don't completely hate the idea of potentially trying someone out. You look at, and Seranthony Dominguez, he does have some past closing experience, but it's not an extensive past closing experience.
But it's more than Jeff Hoffman's.
It is more than Jeff Hoffman, but I believe it was the second half of last year in Baltimore when he got traded over, and his rookie year in Philly, the only years where he was a legitimate full-time closer over an extended period of time. So take that with what you will. I mean, maybe, who knows, maybe you give him a shot, he does good, but it's not as if he's really looked great so far since he's become a Blue Jay. I know that yesterday he had a big punch out, and there had only really been a couple outings. And with relievers, it's always weird because you have 2 bad outings, and all of a sudden that just sets you back for a whole month in terms of raw stats. But it's not as if he's torn the cover off the ball. A guy who has, been really good, Louis Varland, he has no closing experience, but maybe you give him a shot. I would be okay with that. I'd be open to it. I guess the whole point that I'm getting at here is not necessarily that I'm arguing for Jeff Hoffman to remain as the closer, but more so, I guess, trying to paint a more positive picture of his season as a whole and basically trying to point out that there is no real obvious answer, in my opinion. I would say that I'm kind of going to be on the fence on this one, unfortunately, because I do think that it's fair to have this conversation. I also don't think that there's a clear replacement that you can just slot in, no problem, and move forward, and that's your October closer.
Yep. And that, unfortunately, is also where I sit. it's un.
It doesn't make for great entertainment value because we're sitting on the fence and don't have a strong
Right.
opinion. But ultimately, that's where it is. Honestly,
And the positive twist on it is like you might not have a closer, but you do have three closers. like that's the positive twist on it all. Is
well, the way I look at it, I think you have three setup men. I don't think you have a guy who's a
yes,
proven
true.
closer.
Yes, three setup men. Yes, three eighth inning guys you got,
Yep.
which
Yep.
every once you can find one guy to get you to the ninth inning, hopefully enough
Yep.
times in October. And then even if you can't get past those guys, maybe you give the Fluharty party an attempt at getting you a save.
We have to touch on that very
Yeah.
briefly because wow, what a Fluharty party. And I was at the game on Tuesday after he struck out Ohtani and got Mookie Betts the ground out there. He didn't get quite the pop I was expecting, but definitely Mason Fluharty. Welcome to the Fluharty, the Fluharty party, whatever you wanted to talk about it. That was awesome. I mean, that was just truly a moment where Mason Fluharty became a big leaguer, in my opinion. I know that he's had stretches. He came out, in April and had a really nice stretch at the beginning, and then he obviously came back down to earth and started getting hit hard and not having the greatest control. But to me, like that moment, you can never take away the greatest save in MLB history. Quite literally, the greatest save in MLB history. Because I want you to paint a picture, Professor. Paint a picture of what would be the least optimal deployment in the save opportunity. The base is loaded, and arguably, not arguably, a guy who, when it's all said and done, he's going to be acknowledged as the greatest player to ever do it, is at the plate. And all you don't even need a hit to tie the game. You know what I mean? It was just, I could not think of a worse scenario to put Mason Fluharty in. I guess the only worst scenario would be no outs, base loaded and nobody outs in that scenario for a save opportunity. And he came through with flying colors. He struck Shohei Ohtani with 4 strikes because that second one, obviously, we all know the video that surfaced around. Yes, absolutely. Awesome stuff from Mason Fluharty. Just got to give him his flowers because there's no way we can have a podcast. I know it was almost a week ago. It's kind of old news now because that's just how sports tends to go. It's what have you done for me lately? But we had to mention that. We had to mention that.
I'm not done actually. I'm not done talking about Mason Fluharty.
You're it.
So you said greatest save in MLB history, and obviously I think that is a bit hyperbole because the stat that I'm about to bring up goes back to literally the greatest player of all time. So the last time a guy had to come in and get a save with the bases loaded and face 2 former MVPs was 2002. Trevor Hoffman, funny enough, and he faced Bonds.
Legendary closer.
Yeah, and he faced Bonds. Was his first out of that. So it not only has it happened, it's happened in the 21st century, and by all means, Shohei Ohtani will probably be held in higher regard than Barry Bonds because he'll make it to the Hall of Fame. Yeah, Trevor Hoffman's save having to get Barry Bonds out is certainly nothing to slouch at. So yeah, he struck out.
I think that there's an element of Trevor Hoffman is one of the greatest closers in the history of the sport. Like I remember I was at the game in Toronto when Mariano Rivera tied him for all-time saves. This was 2011, I want to say. And yeah, like Trevor Hoffman is over 600 saves. He's a Hall of Famer in his own. Like Mason Fluharty is a guy who was a 4A guy. He's a guy who was a bubble guy prior to that. Like it's Mason Fluharty's type of guy where like if he gave up a grand slam to Shohei Ohtani there, not one person would be talking about Mason Fluharty the next day. We'd be talking about Jeff Hoffman and John Schneider and all that.
Yeah, well, also, but also, he would have been a DFA candidate.
That's the point, exactly. I think that matters more when it's like Trevor. I mean, maybe this was what Trevor Hoffman's first ever save or something like that.
I can't confirm whether or not it was his first career save.
Yes.
Because I don't know if the stat was about the fact that it was 2 former MVPs to get the save, or if it was to get your first career save.
I got to imagine, like someone had to have gotten A-Rod and Jeter out, no, like for a save at some point, no. So I'm thinking it's got to be a little bit more like constrained to like first ever save.
But it was, but I don't know. It was 2000. Oh, okay, so it was 2002, and Trevor Hoffman's first year I don't think was 2002. Yeah, his first year was 1993. So no, the last time that someone had to get 2 former MVPs out with the bases loaded was the caveat.
Okay, there you go. That makes it a little clearer because that would have been a little too constrained. Okay, fair enough. Yeah. So yeah, maybe it's debatable whether or not it's the greatest save in MLB history. It was a fantastic save. It's definitely on a short list for sure.
Has he made the playoff roster?
I think so, because
barring disaster.
No, because honestly, even without disaster, you kind of look at it. It's like here's the thing about a playoff roster is that like it's not a regular 13-man pitching staff because you only have 4 starters in the playoffs max, right? So that's
Yeah.
2 extra bullpen roster spots. So even if, let's say Jimmy Garcia comes back, or Trey Savage, who we'll talk about shortly in this podcast, ends up slotting there, you could still have room for a Mason Fluharty. And Tommy Nance probably going to get DFA'd. He's probably going to be the guy who's going to go down once Shane Bieber gets activated, hopefully next week. So I think that there's a very, not only a real chance, probably a likelihood that Mason Fluharty makes the playoff roster. I want to say it's that put the icing on the cake, but I think he probably would have made it anyway, if I'm being completely honest with you.
You didn't need.
They were gonna have 2 lefties. They were going to take 2 lefties in the playoff rotation.
I know, you just didn't need to mention it. It was better for the content.
Okay. I don't lie to the people, Prof. I tell the truth. Okay?
I didn't ask you not to tell the truth. I asked you just don't withhold the truth.
My opinions are unfiltered. They will not be foundationed in lies.
Speaking about playoff rotations, the Jays basically face one over the next 5 days. I'm going to list it to you. Here's the pitching gauntlet. They face Jacob deGrom, who, as we know, when healthy, one of the greatest pitchers ever. Then they face Patrick Corbin, who, he's old and doesn't quite have what he used to have, but he is a former All-Star. Then they face Nathan Eovaldi, who not only did we want the Jays to acquire at the trade deadline, but he is literally going to finish second in Cy Young to Tarek Skubal this year.
Garrett Crochet is having a pretty good year too.
And Garrett Crochet, but yes, he will be in the top 3 Cy Young finalists at the end of the year, barring disaster. Then you face probably the next greatest pitcher of all time in Paul Skeens on Monday, and then you face Mitch Keller, again, former All-Star and a guy the Jays would have been happy to acquire at the deadline. That's your next 5 days of arms that you're going up against. Again, I'll put a positive spin on it. That's great for a team that you are trying to gauge whether or not they can compete in a playoff, atmosphere against the elite starting pitching in August, like in a playoff push. That's the other good thing about this, but god damn.
Yeah, you definitely would have loved to have to catch the Rangers 4 and 5 starters, or at least one of them in this series, and not the
1, 2, 3
Pirates. Yeah, the Pirates 1 and 2. Yeah, right. Yeah. So obviously that's unfortunate. It's unfortunate, but it's also baseball, because you play 162 games, 6 months a year. Like, here's the thing: you don't notice when you crack. Let's say you have 2 back-to-back series and you face a team's 3, 4, 5 back-to-back series. You don't really notice that because it doesn't stick out as much, but you definitely notice that now when it's going to be literally the cream of the crop for both teams. You would have loved it to be a little bit easier, but at the same time, the Jays are in a pretty good position. They have done well against good pitchers all season long, and that's been the case all season long. Lately, not so much. Blake Snell had their way with them a few days ago. Yeah. Tyler Holden, or what was Cade Horton? He was untouchable, legitimately untouchable as I've seen a Blue Jays opponent in a long time, literally the other day. And Matt Boyd looked awesome yesterday until Vladdy deposited his one mistake at the ball game. So lately it hasn't quite been as smooth sailing against great pitchers, but overall the whole body of work of the season, it's been very good. It's been very good against good pitchers, and they've beaten Jacob deGrom earlier this year. It was the only game in his career where he didn't strike out a batter, and Dalton Varsho, I believe he had home run and another ring double off him, another almost home run, if my memory serves me correctly. So we'll see how that goes. Obviously it's going to be tough, but here's the thing: you escape this series, or pardon me, this series and a half or 2 series against these good pitchers, and have some good numbers and do well against them. All of a sudden, now you have a feel in the clubhouse of, well, who can't we beat? Because we've beaten everybody. All the great pitchers. And Zach Wheeler earlier in the year when they went to Philly had a great start against them too, and obviously a couple guys. But it's gonna happen against the good pitchers. But if you can have a couple nice pellets on your wall, which the Blue Jays absolutely do, Max Fried, Carlos Rodon, Jacob deGrom, like I mentioned, Robbie Ray, Logan Webb. There's Garrett Crochet. They beat him earlier in the year. Spencer Schwellenbach, who was having a great year before he got hurt. Spencer Strider. I can go on and on about all the good pitchers they've beaten this season. So you should have confidence. Tarek Skubal, how could I forget? Obviously, you have a win against him. I was there for that one. It would be really nice to have, a Paul Skeens and Nathan Eovaldi, because at that point, it's literally the 2 hottest pitchers in the league. You beat them back-to-back days. That would be incredible. Yeah. So I'm excited. I'm excited to see how they do against these guys. And here's the thing: as great as these guys are, the Rangers come in here with a 500 record. The Pirates are abysmal. They have a losing record when Paul Skeens pitches. So it's like, yeah, it's going to be tough to hit, but you should still probably win a fair
should
amount
still
of
win
these
the game.
games, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, right. So, yeah, I'm excited for the challenge
Yep.
to summarize in one sentence.
Yep, I completely agree. And I think that if I was to give you the lineup card that we put out for the Jacob deGrom game and the Patrick Corbin game and the Nathan Eovaldi game and the Paul Skeens game, if I gave you the lineup card and you didn't know that it was 2025, you would have been like, oh, God, the Jays are going to get shut out today, or no hit, or, almost perfect games. Like, this team last year against those guys, you would have been like, yeah, curtains. Those are scheduled losses. But somehow, David Popkins and this team have figured it out. They not only are they the best batting average team, the best OBP team, one of the best WRC plus teams in the league this year, in terms of lowest strikeout rate, they're one of the best teams in the last 25 years. This team has literally formed the definition of an identity.
Yep. And it's worked. It's worked because here's the thing, like, you can, and the modern day baseball has always been along the lines of, yeah, you strike out a lot, but ultimately if it comes with power, so be it. But the problem, I think what this team's figured out is that it'd be nice to hit a bunch of bombs. Everyone agrees that we love to hit bombs, we love to hit home runs and all that stuff, but it's not a home run hitting team. So if you're not a home run hitting team, shouldn't you try to maximize your strengths? And maximizing your strengths is doing what they have, putting a lot of pressure on starting pitchers, platoon advantages, a lot of depth. You look at the lineup right now, and there's going to be a legitimate conversation of what they're going to do after tonight when George Springer gets activated. Of, well, you DFA Ty France, who has an OPS like close to 1,000 since he's gotten here. Do you send David Schneider or Joey Loperfido, who've been awesome, down? This roster is legitimately over 13 players deep, and you can only have 13 position players. So it goes to show it's legitimately the definition of 1 through 13, right? And at the same time, now that you have Vladdy, that all-star, superstar potential on the upside, you feel a little bit better about the power situation, right?
Exactly.
And you just imagine what happens when Anthony Santander comes back if he does and starts hitting well. Like, I mean, obviously that's a bit of a pipe dream right now, but they have a lot of depth. They have a lot of depth in this lineup, and I've always said that I'll take home runs if it comes with strikeouts, but if you're not going to hit home runs, putting the ball in play absolutely works. Like the on-base percentage on a strikeout is 0. Right. Obviously, you strike out. The XBLO on a strikeout is 0. Right. You put a ball in play, Anthony Volpe throws it away. You score 2 runs, right? Like we've seen multiple times this year. A seeing eye single like Tyler Heineman, the BABIP of God, finds a hole, and all of a sudden you score another 2 runs there. Or like in Detroit when he had that hit that George Springer got thrown out on, but that was still a clutch hit. But ultimately, putting the ball in play, if you're not going to hit home runs like the Blue Jays haven't, they've middle of the pack. It's not been horrible. You want to put the ball in play, move runners along, put pressure on the pitcher and on the defense. There's a big reason why this team has been a lot better with runners in scoring position this season. It's because of the contact. A big reason why guys don't score from third as often is because there's so many strikeouts in Major League Baseball. But the Blue Jays don't strike out. So you put a ball in play, a runner scores from third on a sac fly or a hard ground ball or a ball through the hole. So, yeah, it's absolutely an identity. They've completely bought in, and this lineup's been super fun to watch. And this is an entertaining brand of baseball. It's like, objectively, you don't strike out, you put the ball in play. That's what fans want. We want balls in play. So I completely agree with you. Absolute identity, and a lot of credit goes to David Popkins, Lou Ionati, and all the boys there doing work behind the scenes.
Before we get into the position player roster crunch, we got to get into the playoff rotation roster crunch because after every start, specifically Max Scherzer makes, he has all but solidified his spot in game 1, 2, or 3 of the playoffs. Let me tell you his last 4 starts. 7 innings of 1-run ball against the Cubs, a top 3 team in the National League. 6 innings of 2-run ball against the Los Angeles Dodgers, the former World Series champions.
Defending World Series
champions. That's what I meant. Yeah. Defending World Series champions and the team that's expected and still a top 3 in terms of betting favorite to win the World Series this year. Then he went 6 innings of 1-run ball against his Kansas City Royals, which, whatever, they're not a playoff team, but they were last year. And then, right, they made it last year, right? That wasn't mistaken,
correct.
And then 7 innings of 3-run ball against the Detroit Tigers, the former American League leaders until the Jays surpassed them. That's his last 4 starts. If I told you that Max Scherzer made 4 consecutive starts of 6+ innings this year for the Toronto Blue Jays in leverage, you would have laughed in my face. And yet, that's exactly what he's done. And now he has legitimately bumped one of our $20 million playoff starters, whether it be Jose Barrios or Chris Bassett. He's bumped them out of the rotation. Both of them out of the rotation. Neither one of them, as of right now, for me, would be in this playoff rotation, because I'm assuming Shane Bieber comes back and is healthy and is competent. And for me, then it goes Gausman or Bieber game 1, and then the following one, game 2, and then Max Scherzer game 3, and then you figure it out after that.
There's 6 weeks left until the playoffs, and obviously you look back 6 weeks ago, we had a much different take on Max Scherzer and the Blue Jays and everything, the whole season. A lot can change in 6 weeks, is my point, especially with the guy who has dealt with chronic injuries, knock on wood. Right now, he's number 1 for me. Right now, he's your number 1 guy on the depth chart in terms of your starting rotation. He is your number 1
Wow.
because Shane Bieber has a path to get to number 1. But right now, Shane Bieber is an idea. Right now, Shane Bieber is a fantasy, right?
But Kevin Gausman doesn't?
I think I got to put him over Kevin Gausman at this point. I think after these starts, and look, Kevin Gausman has looked awesome himself since the All-Star break, but there is a little bit of Jekyll and Hyde with Kevin Gausman of the hard hit balls and the barrels. And yeah, Scherzer, he does get barreled quite a bit too, but it's almost as if you look at Max Scherzer and he has that trust factor. You know what I mean? Of like, it's a big spot and you come through in a big moment, and that he's obviously been there and done that. He's going to waltz into the Hall of Fame whenever the first year of his eligibility comes in. I feel like I want that guy starting, especially you look at the dynamic of playoff rotations as it is. You don't need a guy to go out there and give you 7, 8 innings. You know what I mean? You don't need a guy who give you length and quantity. You need a guy to give you quality, even if it's 4 innings. And right now, who do I trust more to give me 4 great innings? Just 4? I think I trust Max Scherzer to give me 4 great innings over anyone in this staff. And Kevin Gausman is close. It's not an easy call. But I do think that the fact that the pedigree, the being there, done that, Kevin Gausman has had playoff experience. It's nowhere near as good as Max Scherzer in terms of, being there pitching in World Series and pitching well in World Series and all that stuff. So in a short spurt, 4-inning spurt, I'll take Max Scherzer right now. I think he's your number 1. I do think a healthy Shane Bieber, if he's the guy that you traded for, that you thought you were trading for, the guy that we saw from 2019 to 2022 in Cleveland, he's your number 1. That's a guy who was legitimately one of the best pitchers in the American League across multiple years, like a legitimate top 5 Cy Young candidate year in, year out. If that's the guy you're getting, he's your number 1. That's 2 years ago since we've seen that guy. Right. So right now, I can't pencil him in as your number 1 guy. I have to see some form of, even if it's 80% to 90% of that guy, for me to be confident in giving him that look. Right now, if I were to power rank, and obviously it could change, Max Scherzer is 1, Kevin Gausman is 2, Shane Bieber is 3, because I think that even if Shane Bieber is healthy, he's got to start a playoff game for you, because just plain and simply, like, you just didn't trade your top 5 prospects for a guy to not start a playoff game for you in his only year of guaranteed under control. So he is right now. He's in my playoff rotation right now.
So
that's
when
how
you put him number 2?
I would still put Kevin Gausman ahead of him.
Okay.
Because Kevin Gausman himself has been really good in the second half as well. If Shane Bieber comes back and he looks good, he's my number 1. But right now he's my number 3.
Then it would go Shane Bieber, Max Scherzer, Kevin Gausman.
As of right now, yes. Yes. Yeah. If and obviously here's the thing.
No, that's a big if.
Shane Bieber, if he has 2 or 3 good starts, Max Scherzer might have 2 or 3 bad ones, and all of a sudden he's my number 3, right?
Right.
The list is fluid, is my point. But if right now, if I were to take a screenshot, Shane Bieber is my minimal, on the bottom of my playoff rotation. He's in there, but at the bottom, because I haven't seen it yet. He can go. He can be number 1. It wouldn't have to take too long for me to put him at number 1. But right now, Max Scherzer 1, Kevin Gausman 2, Shane Bieber 3. If the playoffs start tomorrow,
I'm telling you, just hearing that sentence blows my fucking mind. The Toronto Blue Jays are going to play a playoff game where Max Scherzer is starting game 1 in 2025. I will lose my mind. And it's not because I disagree with it. Fans, please let us know what your playoff rotation looks like.
What's your playoff rotation look like, Prof?
Yeah. Oh, as of right now, my expectation is this. And this is expectation / wish. If I was just guessing what the Jays were going to do, I assume it's going to go Kevin Gausman game 1. I assume they would go Shane Bieber game 2, and then they would go Max Scherzer game 3, and then they would probably go Jose Barrios game 4. That's my guess. That is what the Jays would do. My expectation, or what I would like to happen in best case scenario, is Shane Bieber starts game 1, Kevin Gausman starts game 2, and Max Scherzer starts game 3. And it's not because I don't think that Max Scherzer is going to deserve a game 2 start. It's just that Kevin Gausman's been with this team for, multiple years. Max Scherzer was brought in to, kind of just fill in the void of being a 4th starter. Yes, he's exceeded expectations in terms of, he's exceeded expectations in August. It's hard to kind of put into a thought whether or not he's exceeded expectations on the entire season. That's a conversation for after the year is all said and done.
When healthy, he definitely has, though. He's definitely exceeded.
When healthy, he definitely has. But I think that most of us would say that we've expected a healthier Max Scherzer.
Yeah, we're hoping. I'm expecting. Right. I don't know. We were hoping for sure.
Right. Yeah, you paid him $15 million. You needed to get 2 WAR out of him. You might not get 2 WAR out of him. I have him right here. Actually, let me just see what his WAR's at just before I start. He's a 1-1. He could finish the year with 2 WAR, which would be crazy. Anyways,
he can miss half a season and still be worth that money. That's how good he's been.
That's insane. So my expectation and my wish is that Shane Bieber starts game 1, Kevin Gausman game 2, Max Scherzer game 3, Jose Barrios game 4, Chris Bassett out of the pen, Eric Lauer out of the pen.
Here's where I'm going to hop in there. I'm putting Chris Bassett ahead of both Lauer and Barrios if it's a home game. If it's not a home game, it's a road game, he's not even in there. Right. He's not on the roster. But the thing is that
so if game 4 is a home game, you want Chris Bassett starting it.
Game 4 wouldn't be a home game, that's the thing. Because if you're the top seed, you're the top seed, it wouldn't be. So all of a sudden you maybe put Chris Bassett 2. You basically your game 2 starter. I don't know. It's a tough call. It's a tough call, man. Dan Shulman.
In my opinion, you can't run platoon advantages or you can't run splits in the playoffs until game 4. That's in my opinion. You start your 3 best guys for game 1, game 2, and game 3 of a playoff series. Then it's your job to figure it out after that, because your game 1 starter is going to start another game in a 5-game set or in a 7-game set. Same with your game 2 guy in a 7-game set. So that's why I don't run splits. I don't run splits in games 1, 2, or 3. You start your 3 best guys, assuming that the way it works out at the end of the other series, and hopefully you get the bye. All of that.
Of course, yes, of course. You have to guarantee that your 3 best starters get a start.
No, right? And exactly. That they start game 1, game 2, and game 3. That's why you do not start Chris Bassett game 2, and you do not start Jose Barrios.
I think that's a good point, because assuming the Jays get the bye in the first round, then you have 3 losses to play with officially. In the wild card round, you have 2, and obviously then you manage differently. So if we have 3 guaranteed losses to play with, then yes, you have to make sure that the 3 guys you trust the most are getting a start there. So I'm with you there. You there. And then whether that's Chris Bassett. Yeah.
And then, But see, here's the best thing about Chris Bassett, because I want to make this abundantly clear. Chris Bassett has been an absolute savior for this rotation over the course of his Toronto Blue Jays tenure. He is the definition of consistency. Unfortunately, that also means his road splits are the definition of consistency. He's been a terrible road pitcher his entire career, and he's been a 3.6 plus in a sub 4 ERA guy his entire career. He always finishes the year with half decent number 3 numbers.
Definition of a high floor guy. He's a definition of a high floor guy.
Exactly. Yeah. But because of his attitude this year, where he's like, no, I'm doing whatever it takes to win. The fact that he literally started before the All-Star break and then made an appearance out of the pen. Yeah, I want that guy to play that role for me in the playoffs, and he is going to be fully accepting of that. Eric Lauer, same thing. Unfortunately, he is our statistically best pitcher in the rotation, and he probably will be even at the end of the regular season. But because he has come into this team with the expectation that he was just supposed to bridge a gap, and he's not making starter money, and he does pitch from the left side, these are all things that I am confident in, that when you tell him on October 1st, hey, you're going to the pen, but you're on our playoff roster, he's going to be like, yeah, let's go. We're trying to win a World Series. Like that, and that's the thing is like, hold on. And that's the thing with starters. It's like moving starters to the pen, you can cause legitimate mental warfare, but I don't think for Chris Bassett or Eric Lauer that's going to be the case. I can't say the same for any of our other starters, and that's why I move both of them to the pen.
Well, the funny thing is, and I was going to mention that you said October 1st when they tell Eric Lauer that conversation might have to come a lot sooner than October 1st because once Shane Bieber comes back, I mean,
Yeah.
I generally wonder what they're going to do. I mean, obviously there's a number of things.
Sure.
But one thing from listening to the interviews and listening to the guys who are close to the team, it really does feel like as much as they have to consider a six-man rotation, it doesn't really seem like they would like to do that. And like a
Really?
big reason why that's the case is that I think that ultimately they just don't want their bullpen to be thinned out. And obviously in September we have an extra roster spot, but ultimately once you get to the playoffs, there is no like 6 days of rest or there's no 5 days of rest. You're pitching, sometimes on short rest even. So I guess they don't want to
Right.
leverage that too much, right? So and
Yeah,
don't get me wrong,
a game of
if you're
habits.
ever
Yeah.
going to have a six-man rotation, it's this rotation. It's a rotation where you have six guys who are consistently consistent, have been all solid, and you have no ace. Because the whole reason why you would want to have a six-man rotation if you have an ace is because now that ace gets less starts over the course of a year.
Yeah.
Where I think this would be the perfect rotation to run a six-man,
Yep.
older rotation, all of them high floors, none of them ace-like caliber as of right now.
Yeah.
I think that would be optimal, but it really doesn't feel like they're going to do that. Honestly, it really does feel like they're what they're going to do, and what I've heard them do, like they might honestly put Jose Barrios on the Phantom IL for 10 days, and the big reason why is because of the stuff. The velo has been down.
Yeah.
Obviously, the shape of his off speed stuff, the slurve has not been quite as dominant as it was the last couple of years, and we saw in the results. I was there on Tuesday where he pitched really well against the Cubs, but ultimately all season long we've all acknowledged that it's been a bit of an uneven year for Jose Barrios. That under the overall raw numbers are fine, and he's making every start, giving you innings, and they have a good record when he pitches, but it just doesn't feel like he's been Jose Barrios. So maybe giving him a breather until September, that would kind of make sense. And you can, if you want, you can do the six-man rotation then when there's not as many off days. The other one is obviously putting Eric Lauer in the bullpen, which is unfortunate. But you look at the roster, the five guys that they have other than Eric Lauer, he's got the least bargaining power, right? He's the guy that he's not on a $20 million guaranteed contract. He's not a guy who was an established big leaguer. I mean, maybe he is, but last year he wasn't pitching in the big leagues, right? So I think that that's sort of the guy that would be the easiest to move, and it's unfortunate because, like you mentioned, he's been so good, and they've done extremely well in the games he's pitched because of how well he's pitched. So it's a really tough question. This is probably like a longer topic, not for 40 plus minutes into a show where we're sort of wrapping up near the end, but it's gonna be very interesting to see what they do these next couple of weeks.
Yeah. And I favor what you would like to do come October. So I think the mindset, despite six man being logical, I think the mindset of look, we got to prepare you for what October is going to bring, and that is going to be starting on 4 days rest. And I mean, we're not going to start you on 4 days rest in the regular season, but we would like to keep it as short to the amount of rest as possible. So keep running the five-man. Eric Lauer, we would like you to pitch in the pen in October in all likelihood. So let's just move you to the pen now to get you acclimated back into that role. I actually do agree with that mindset. Speaking of pitchers in the playoffs who could very well potentially pick up a ticket to some consideration, Trey Savage, the Jays' top pitching prospect, has been making headlines all year long. Finally has gotten the promotion to AAA. He's made a AAA start, and it was good. This is a guy who, at the beginning of the year, you looked at and you said 2026 ETA. You all of a sudden making the AAA roster in August gives you time to actually make some conversations happen in September where you do get the extra 2 roster spots. The roster expands from 26 to 28 for September, and then obviously back down to 26 come October. But if Trey Yesavage comes up and he is giving you ace-like outings, a conversation definitely needs to be had, and that's the most exciting, I think, storyline from the prospect farm to watch the rest of the way.
Well, I do think we have to pump the brakes just a little bit when it comes to ace-like stuff because
That's what that's all he has shown to this point, though.
yes, but he got shelled in his first AAA start. I mean, I don't even know he got shelled. He just completely lost command and just didn't had a rough one yesterday in Buffalo. He's not going to be a starter, obviously, but this move of calling him up to AAA, he's going to pitch this year. That's the plan, at least, right? That's the plan. He's going to pitch for the big club this year in September, out of the bullpen. That's got to be the plan, right? Otherwise, why would you fast track him like this? You know, what I mean, it's not as if the raw numbers weren't off the page in Double A New Hampshire. I mean, ideally, you would have liked to have him pitch a couple more starts out there, try to like further dominate the development league before bringing up the AAA. This move clearly signals to me that the plan for him is to pitch in September for this team out of the bullpen.
Huh.
And honestly, I look at it as like Jackson Jobe of last year for the Tigers, where he's your top prospect. You have a long-term plan of him to be your starter. But right now, we just need you to come in here, throw gas, and strike guys out in a one-inning role, be an extra leverage reliever. I think that's the role for him. And obviously, he's going to need some, a little bit of success to the AAA level before you obviously bring him up to the major leagues and have him pitch, multiple meaningful innings for you in September.
Mm-hmm.
But I think right now, as of now, and obviously, if he really struggles or, God forbid he gets hurt, that's obviously not going to be what they're going to do. But I think right now the plan is that he's going to be pitching meaningful innings at some point in September. When that's going to be, I don't know. But I think he's going to be in the playoff rotation, or not in the rotation, the playoff pitching staff.
The playoff?
Yes. Yeah, I think so. I think that's where we're headed. Because to me, if you weren't going to bring him up,
September is one thing. I get that. Like, okay, you bring him up in September just to try him out, but you think that this also means that he's, basically like not solidified, but like.
Oh no, he's not solidified. I think that's
like
the plan.
He's penciled.
I think that's the plan.
Wow.
I think that's the plan. I think that's what they're hoping. I think that's what they're hoping. Like, you saw what Jackson Jobe was last year for the Tigers.
Yeah,
basically that role.
No, it is that role, and I do want to correct myself. I said he was pretty good in his first start, but I definitely was.
He was not good yesterday.
He was not good yesterday.
That's okay. First start in AAA, get the heebie-jeebies out. Go and dominate next start, whenever that is, Tuesday or Monday, whenever that is.
Yeah.
Actually, no, because I think AAA has an off day every Monday, but you know what I mean.
Yeah. To make up for my falsehood, I'm going to give you exactly what he did so that the fans know exactly what he did. 1 2/3, 1 hit, 2 runs, both of them earned, 4 walks, and 3 strikeouts, and it was 44 pitches over those 1 2/3. So, no, sorry, that's his game score. I don't know what his pitch was. So yeah, that's not good. Obviously, his command fell apart, and the command has actually been something that he has tried to deal with this year. But I'm gonna finish it off with something positive. You'd probably think like, oh, he's been a starter this entire time. Like, how is he gonna transition into a bullpen role for a playoff team? To be honest with you, he's not a fully stretched out starter. Most of Trey Yesavage's starts in his minor league career this year have been 4 innings. Like that's the majority of his starts this year. Sometimes 5. He's gotten to 6, I believe, once. Yeah, he's only gotten to 6 innings once. Like he's only even seen the 6th inning once. A lot of starts of 5 innings complete, and then a lot of starts of 4+, and then 3, and then 2, and obviously this one was 1, but for bad reasons. But so it's not completely out of the question, and I wasn't saying that it was out of the question, but I was not expecting you to be as ambitious in the fact that you think that right now, John Schneider and Ross Atkins and Mark Shapiro and whoever else, Pete Walker, have, when they're looking at their October roster, Trey Savage is like, yeah, maybe.
I mean, the question is, if he comes up in September and he's gonna pitch out of the bullpen if he pitches, he's not gonna make starts for this team, that's for sure.
Mm-hmm.
But if he looks good and he's throwing hard and striking guys out, I mean, why wouldn't you take him over Tommy Nance, right?
No, I know, but I feel like I feel like it's not going to be Tommy Nance that you're going to have to ask the question for because, by the time September and October roll around, you're expecting Jimmy Garcia back. You're expecting Nick Sandlin back. Trey Savage will be in the conversation. Like, I feel like
I think that's
Eric Lauer will be in the bullpen probably. Chris Bassett will have to be in the bullpen probably. So, like, when we're talking October, we're talking, like, who actually gets bumped, and it's like Trey Savage is probably that guy.
Yeah, it's definitely not set in stone, but like the reality is we don't know if Jimmy Garcia or Nick Sandlin are going to come back, right? And here's the thing, like I do think that if Trey Savage, I think he's going to get an opportunity if he pitches well in AAA these next couple starts. I think he's going to get called up, and if he pitches well, I mean, having Chris Bassett on the playoff roster is great, but you can't take 6 guys. I mean, you can't take 6 playoff starters. There are 2 guys who you'll have to have either in the bullpen or not on the roster at all, and if I want leverage arms, would I rather have Trey Savage or Chris Bassett? Like I'll be honest, like as great as Chris Bassett is over the course of 162, in a one inning leverage role, I don't think he's a guy who's really fits that well at all. I think that he's a guy who you don't need multiple long men. That's the point. You don't need multiple long men in your bullpen in the playoffs.
So then
Who
it's Eric
cares?
Lauer.
Yeah, right. Like
It's Eric
all you
Lauer.
need is one.
I feel like I don't even think it's worth having the conversation of whether or not it's Chris Bassett. It's definitely Eric Lauer if you're bumping
Right.
any starter out.
My point is that I don't see the need in taking 5 out of the 6 starters. I think you take 4 guys, the 3 that we mentioned, and one more, whoever I guess pitches well at that moment, and the rest too. Like
And
they're
you
not on my
bump
playoff
both of
roster.
them? No way.
Yeah.
I
think that's a smart play.
So okay, here's the thing. I'm not going to disagree that it might be the smart play because I definitely see the logic there, and I actually agree with the logic. But you know just as well as I do, there's no way. There's just no way that they bump
I'm
up.
not there. I'm not there.
You think that it's? I do not see a world where they bump Chris Bassett from the playoff roster. I think that. I just don't buy it. Like I think that takes the type of balls that I don't think that this organization has.
We'll see.
Yeah.
We'll see. But I think we both agree, like whether or not they'll do it, that's a different question. But I think we all agree that like
It is a smart
you'd rather have it. Yeah,
Yes,
it's a smart play. And here's the thing.
Yeah, if Trey Savage
Yeah.
proves to be trustable, then yeah, I completely agree.
Right. And I think he'll get a shot. I do think he'll get a shot in the major leagues. I think that right now that's the plan. And look, if you get shelled in Buffalo again and then again, then I think the plan changes. But I think right now, if you fast tracked him he didn't make a ton of starts in New Hampshire. If you fast track him to Buffalo, I think that they're legitimately hoping he's going to be pitching innings for them in September. So we'll see what happens, man. But I think this is an interesting storyline.
Yeah, 100%. That's what I was saying.
Yeah.
He's definitely the most interesting storyline, or one of the most interesting storylines the rest of the way for the Toronto Blue Jays. Speaking of interesting storylines, that includes injury updates. Shane Bieber.
Not our favorite kind of interesting.
I'd say pretty interesting. Shane Bieber. Shane Bieber starts today for AAA. He's already started for AAA once, and it was really good. He's expected to go 80 to 85 pitches today. My assumption, and some other people's assumption, is if that goes well again, then you can probably expect his next start to be in the major leagues for this Toronto Blue Jays team. George Springer is also DHing tonight for Buffalo, and assuming all goes well, he'll probably be back this weekend, Saturday or Sunday. Anthony Santander is expected to start swinging next week. I have something else to mention on him before we finish the show, but I'll move on to the final guy, which is Alek Manoah. He's starting in AAA on Wednesday, and what has been the story for Alek Manoah every step of the way is every time he gets close to being back to the big leagues, he makes a start that gives you some hesitation, and that's what happened again.
I think where we're at with Big Puma is that like let's gear up for 2026 at this point, right?
Yeah,
like that,
I
I think he's actually below Trey Savage on the depth chart now in terms of
100%.
Yeah.
100%. And Santander, here's what I wanted to mention on Santander. A couple reports I read today seemed like, I think from Keegan Matheson specifically, was like there's conversations happening right now on whether or not they even care to have Santander back. Like,
yeah,
if that's even going to be an option, which I think if you listen to this podcast, you know well that that's definitely not been the narrative that we've shared with you guys. Me specifically, I've been not only expecting Anthony Santander to be back, but I've told you guys that I think that he will be a contributor. The fact that the conversation has now shifted to whether or not he will even be back is kind of crazy, and obviously a major disappointment, and is a major problem for your playoff lineup. Not that this lineup might not be able to compete, but like you literally got him because you know what it takes to win in October, and it's home runs. And Anthony Santander hit 44 last year and has had 30 plus the last 3 years. So this is definitely something that the Jays weren't hoping for, but maybe at the deadline they knew it was a possibility.
The flip side of the coin, though, I get that in theory Anthony Santander with the power that he has, would be a major addition to this Blue Jays lineup. We all acknowledge that. But if Anthony Santander is going to look like Anthony Santander in 2025, then yeah, no, I'd give me Nathan Lucas, give me David Schneider, give me anybody, honestly, because and obviously, like I do think that there were a lot of things going on. The injury, obviously, first and foremost, but I do expect Anthony Santander to be a contributor to this team during this contract. I don't think this is just going to be a massive albatross. I'm not at all there yet at all.
Of course.
But I do think that it's getting too late. It's getting too late. If you're not even swinging the bat, then like how long are you from a rehab assignment? And then Triple A's over in a few weeks. The minor leagues ends before the major leagues does. So what's he gonna do? Like play in simulated games, like swinging the bat and that? Like to me, I've gotten to the point where we're just running out of time. We're just running out of time for you to just get back and up to speed and just be ready to take away roster of playing time from guys who have produced. So I'm kind of like when I hear that report from Keegan that you mentioned, I think that. Yeah, I think that you're getting there. I mean, maybe you're not all the way there yet, but it's getting to the point where you might just have to write it off this year.
Yeah, we mentioned it earlier, and this falls into that same category. George Springer's coming back tomorrow or Sunday.
Yeah.
Who gets left off the roster?
Yes.
The conversation is whether or not it's going to be Davis Schneider or Ty France. I would say that that's definitely confirmed. It hasn't been officially confirmed, obviously, but I would say that's the expectation. So we've already talked about it in the group chat.
Let me go off the board. I think Joey Loperfido might end up being the guy who gets left off. And the reason why is because he didn't play on Tuesday against the righty. He didn't play. He didn't start. That tells you all you need to know about like where it's at. If he's not even playing against when he has the platoon advantage. And look, here's the thing about Joey Loperfido. All this is it seems like it's like a slap in the face, but in reality, he'll be up in 2 weeks. You know what I mean? When the roster expands to an extra roster spot, he's the next guy on the list, right? So it's unfortunate that he's the odd man out.
Here's my question, because you're right, and you're right no matter who the answer is. By the way, you're right no matter whoever gets cut because of George Springer is back in 2 weeks for sure. That's correct, but.
Well, here's the thing: it can't be Ty France because he's got no options, right? If you DFA him, that he's gonna get picked up probably by someone for his $1 million price tag. So if you want Ty France, you can't DFA him, right?
Right. So maybe the answer is it's definitely not Ty France. So maybe the conversation is it's between Davis Schneider and Joey Loperfido. But my point is you're right in the sense that whoever it is coming back up in 2 weeks between those two guys. So I think the answer to this tomorrow has to be the same answer that you're planning on it being in October, because the same conversation is going to happen. If not, both of them will have to be gone because Santander might be back. But assuming Santander's not back, whoever you cut tomorrow is probably the guy that you're going to cut in October.
Yep.
So
I agree. Is
your answer Joey Loperfido then as well?
Honestly, I think it's a toss-up. I think both guys kind of give you a lot of the same stuff. It's tough. It really is tough. I know Loperfido, obviously, he's a lefty, so you're going to have him face righties more. So I guess it all depends on who the Jays are going to face, right? These next 2 weeks, right? If you're going to face a ton of lefties, then you'd rather have David Schneider. If you're going to face a boatload of righties, then you probably want Joey Loperfido, right?
No, I want the guy. No, that's what I'm saying. My answer is I want the guy who I plan on starting in October.
It's honestly, I get it.
Who I plan on,
but it's not that simple. It's the 26 roster spot, like it's a platoon advantage spot, right? It's about like it's not about who's better. It's more about like let's say you're facing I don't know, like what's a team that has a lot of lefties, right? Like let's say you're facing a team I don't even know, like a team that has multiple lefties. Like let's say you're facing a team multiple lefties in their rotation. You're gonna take David Schneider, right?
You're talking about. I see what you're saying.
In the playoffs.
Because you get to change the roster every series.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. Right. So like to me, I think that's it's not as clear cut as like you have to have this is your guy who you're gonna have. It's about match. It's matchup dependent, and like I honestly think whoever gets sent down, whether it's Davis or Joey or whatever. Here's one of my hot takes. Not really a hot take, but I guess like. I would rather not send them down. I'd rather just Phantom IL them so that they can get major league paychecks. Because I think that it's unfair that both of them would have to get sent down to the minors after.
I know, but
they're not going to play. I get that they won't be able to play, but like these are two guys who are trying to establish themselves. I just for the amount of work they put in and how much they've helped this team, I want them to. I mean, this is sort of like not really relevant for the fan side of it or the team. But like, that would be nice to see. It'd be nice to see them get, or at least get compensated, under the table, which is I'm sure totally illegal. It's MLB rules, but it would suck for them to have to, not have these next 2 weeks get paid like major leaguers because they're both major leaguers.
Right. Yes, and I agree with that. So for formalities, I'll finish it off by giving the fans the numbers on both of them. Joey Loperfido has only played I was going to just do at-bats, but I might as well give you games if I'm going to pull it up. 29 games this year, 80 at-bats. He has 3 home runs. He's batting .363, 10 RBI, 407 OBP, 513 slug, 920 OPS, and a 154 OPS plus, and a .6 WAR. For Davis Schneider, who has obviously played much more than Joey Loperfido has played 52 games, a .8 WAR. So if you're just going by value, Loperfido is on a better pace than Davis Schneider, which makes sense. He is a better defender. 122 at-bats for Davis Schneider, 7 home runs, a .240 batting average, 370 OBP, a 450 slug, an 820 OPS, and a 126 OPS plus. So by paper, Joey Loperfido is a better player, or at least he is this year in 2025. But yeah, I've sided with Rob. It's whoever your playoff matchups are going to be. That's who is your 26th man. And it is unfortunate, but the conversation is going to be had over the next 48 hours, and the conversation is going to be had again in a month and a half.
We'll probably find out within 12 hours, honestly. Like, after the game, when John Schneider goes to his press conference, I'm sure that's going to be one of the first questions he's going to ask about it. They'll do all the formality game stuff, and then like, what's the plan? Yeah. So we could find out after the game tonight in the post game.
Yep, most likely. Speaking of, if you are unfamiliar and you've watched this podcast and you didn't know what was happening tonight, Jacob deGrom is starting against the Toronto Blue Jays. Chris Bassett goes for the Bluebirds, and they host the Texas Rangers for a 3-game set where they will also face Nathan Eovaldi. So we get their best 2 guys. No better way to kick off the playoff stretch. We're not quite there yet. September is kind of the official time, but we're getting damn close. And you could argue that this stretch of a pitching gauntlet for the Jays is getting them set early for their playoff push. For Rob Pintalman, I was Cole Whiston. Shane behind the scenes. You were watching the Blue Jays Center podcast presented by the Sick Podcast Network. Go Jays.
Go Jays.
And that's a wrap. Hope you don't miss us too much until next time. Follow the Sick Podcast Blue Jays Center on YouTube, Google Play, and Apple Podcasts.